Good morning, everybody. I am Nikki Vachon, she, her pronouns, college access counselor at FAME. And we're going to talk about what I think is the hardest part about applying for financial aid, and that is creating that StudentAid.gov account. Um, and we're also going to talk about some troubleshooting ideas here. So I'm here with my friend Floreka. Floreka is our new Mainer specialist, and she's going to be talking about the population she works with. A lot of students whose parents maybe don't have a social security number. So there's been some changes in the last couple of years on how we do that. And then we're going to talk troubleshooting and tell you about some resources that we have. So let's just start with the basics, like what is the StudentAid.gov account? So in 2015, this StudentAid.gov account username and password replaced what we used to have a PIN, like a 4-digit PIN, which turned out not so secure. Who knew? So they created this new system where people would use a username and password to get into StudentAid.gov. And StudentAid.gov is like the mothership. It's like where all federal financial aid stuff lives. Okay. So one of the big changes that happened the last year is that the whole FAFSA system changed and it went to a whole new platform, but also the way we import data on income changed. So we used to go out to the IRS website and pull in tax data. Well, the IRS agreed that they would import data for us, making this whole process easier. But they really needed to make sure that the people who were requesting the data were the real people, right? So they had to really have this kind of tightened security, and this username and password allows people to give consent for the IRS to import data. So that's another thing that this username and password does. Every individual, and we call them a contributor. When you see the word contributor, we're talking about any individual that needs to put information in on a FAFSA. Every person who's going to be a contributor needs to have their own unique StudentAid.gov account. And as you're going to see, this is set up and it's linked to our social security number. So it's unique. So if I'm a student, I set up my account and that's the one I use to apply for financial aid. But say I'm also a parent of a student who's going to college and I need to put in parent information on the FAFSA, I'm going to use that same username and password to get in to do the FAFSA. I don't have a separate username and password as a parent. That one username and password, it really acts as my electronic signature. That's really what it is. So I don't want to create a new account. In fact, I can't because it is tied to my social security number. This is also how we take out a student loan. If we're going to take out a student loan as a student, or if I'm a parent borrower and I'm going to take out a parent loan, this is how I sign the loan application. So this username and password really does a lot of things, okay? So just to let you know, when I'm talking about parents, and I'm going to say this a lot throughout this presentation, parents will need to set up a username and password as well if parent information is needed on the FAFSA. Not every student needs parent information, but if it does, what parent are we talking about? So if parents live in the same household, we're going to use information about both parents, right? That's going to be on the FAFSA, but it may not be that both parents need a username and password. So hold tight on that for a second. But if parents are divorced, separated, or never married, and they don't live in the same household, basically what we need to know is think about, like with my situation. My kids have 4 parents altogether, so there's 2 parent households. My kids would try to figure out which parent provides the most financial support. And when we know what that is, that household is going to be the parents on the FAFSA. Okay. So if that parent is remarried, like my kids, they've got their mom and their dad, and both parents have remarried. So let's say we figure out it's my household that provides the most financial support. We're going to put information about my husband and myself as stepmom. right? A lot of step parents don't realize that their information does get included on the FAFSA. So that's how we do that. So, okay, so we have a FAFSA checklist that we created, and on the back of that FAFSA checklist, we have this who is my parent flow chart that really kind of describes what parent information is going to be on the FAFSA, like which parent are we using, and if they need to have a username and password. So that's on there. One thing I will mention on the right-hand side is that people who think they are parents on the FAFSA, they aren't actually parents. So we are only looking for biological or adoptive parents. So if a student's living with a grandparent, the grandparent isn't on the FAFSA unless they've adopted them, right? That every financial aid night I have a grandparent who comes up and says, okay, so I'm getting a username and password. No, unless you've adopted that student, we are not putting your information on the FAFSA, okay? And if someone's in a situation like that, join us for our session at 11, which has pathways for unique situations where students might not live with a parent. Spoiler alert, come join us for that one because we're going to tell you all about it. Okay, so which parent, now we know who's on the FAFSA. Do both parents need a username and password or not? Well, it all really boils down to how parents filed a tax return in the tax year that the FAFSA uses, okay? So, for example, we're going to use the FAFSA that's opening next October. They're going to use the most recent tax information that we have available. So we're going to be looking at 2024 tax returns. When we fill out the FAFSA in October, we're looking at 2024 tax information. So if your parents filed a married filing joint tax return in 2024, only one parent needs to have a username and password. And the reason for this is, you know how we use that username and password, the StudentAid.gov account? We use that to give consent for the IRS to import the tax data. And if we file a joint tax return, only one of us needs to have an account and give consent. So only one parent needs to have a username and password. But let's say the parents are married and they file separately, or they aren't married, they can't file a joint tax return. So maybe there's two tax returns within the household. Or maybe one of the parents or both don't file a tax return. In those situations, we're going to look at the household and see if they didn't file a joint tax return, then both parents need a username and password, the StudentAid.gov account, and they're going to create their accounts and they're going to both fill out their own section of the FAFSA as a parent. And if anyone has questions, please throw that in the chat because that's a real confusing piece to this. Okay, so now you know like who's going to be a contributor, who needs an account. How do we do this? We're going to go to StudentAid.gov, and you can do this on a cell phone. It's super mobile friendly, or you can do it on a computer. And the right-hand side image is what it looks like on a computer. We're going to go to create an account in the upper right-hand corner. But if you're on a phone, you're going to click on that little person icon, okay? So it just looks a little bit different from where you join. If you already have an account created, you can go to the login, which is in the same place. When we set this up, you're going to need to know your legal name as it appears on your Social Security card. And when you enter that, I just want to let people know that there's a maximum number of characters that you can put in as your name. And people get really wigged out if they can't enter in their whole name. Like say someone has a very long name, we are going to fill up as many letters as we can. So just put in your full name as much as you can. You're going to need your date of birth and your Social Security number. Oh, excuse me. These three data pieces are so important. I'm going to tell you, when people are putting this information in, when we go to StudentAid.gov and we are setting up our account, it is critical that people triple check what they've put in there. Just make sure the date of birth is accurate and the Social Security number. I can tell you 9 times out of 10 when the account doesn't work, it's because the Social Security number that they put in was incorrect. Because what happens behind the scenes is that when you hit submit on this application to create your account, that data goes to the Social Security Administration to make sure those three data pieces match. Okay, so they're going to check their records and they're going to check what you put in. And if it doesn't work, you're going to get an email that says, try again, something went wrong, or your account is ready to use. So, if you don't get that email, don't worry. You can log back in a few days later and just to make sure everything is working smoothly. If there is an issue with what you put in and you go to log in, you will see that there's an issue with your account and you can fix it within that account. You're also going to be asked for your permanent mailing address. Keep in mind, this is where the financial aid office may send you your paperwork. So make sure you have that correct address information. You are also going to need an email address. So every time we log into StudentAid.gov, it uses two-factor authentication. So just like my credit card company, when I log in, I have to get texted or emailed a code. Same thing with StudentAid.gov. So you must have an email address that is associated with this account. I will tell people I do not want you to use your high school email address or a work email address. I want you to use your personal email address. The reason for this is that after graduation, a lot of high school email addresses get shut down, and we're going to need access to this for maybe 14 years, right? This is going to be a long time that we're going to use this username and password. So we want to make sure we have an email address that we can access way in the future. If you don't have an email address, keep in mind that we can set you one up. Google, Yahoo, we can do that in like 5 minutes. So we can do that for you. Sometimes families have a family email account. Only one email account can be associated with this username and password system. So if like the parent uses the household email address to set up their account and the student tries to use it, it's going to say you can't use it because it's already associated with somebody else. So it's got to be unique. If possible, I would love for people to use their cell phone number when they're setting up their account as well. There's a box where you check off to say, I'm going to receive a text when I log in. So if possible, we use that mobile cell phone number. We are going to select and answer 4 challenge questions, which I find to be super challenging. Like, who remembers their challenge questions? I have an issue with that. So one of those things that I want to tell people about on the left-hand side of the screen, we created a worksheet that not only has directions on how to set up your account, but as you are creating it, I want you to write all these things down. I want you to write down the email address you used, your phone number, the username and password you created, and the answers to your challenge questions. I want you to put that like in this worksheet because my favorite color changes every day. So, we want to make sure that if we are trying to get into the account, we no longer have access to our email or our cell phone. Challenge questions are how we're going to get into that account. So we just need to know how we answered that question. So that's why we have that. And just remember that every time we log in to StudentAid.gov, we're going to get either an email or a text. There's also an authenticator app. I'll talk about that in a minute. But we need to really identify who we are when we log in. So it's important that we remember this information. If you want to download, print, use this StudentAid.gov information sheet, you can find that in the resources and tools section of our website, famain.com. Okay, so like I said, when we log into StudentAid.gov, every time they use two-factor authentication, meaning that they're going to send a one-time 6-digit code to either your cell phone or email address. And some people use an authenticator app. I use that for my work. Whenever I log into my computer, I need to use my authenticator app on my phone to say, yep, this is me. So that is also an option as well. So just keep in mind that all of these work. I really like to get my code by email because I find it faster. Authentication app is super fast as well. Email does take a little bit of time. So timing is important when we're doing this. When we create this account, a backup code is going to be generated. So this is a super long, non-specific backup code. Um, and this is like in the future, if we no longer have access to our email or our cell phone number, because a lot of cell phone numbers, like people change their number, that happens. Um, you do have the option of getting into your account using this one-time backup code. And so I tell people to make sure you write that down on our worksheet or take a picture of it with your phone or save it somewhere that you know that you can access it a year from now, right? Once you use that backup code, that's done. You have to go into your account under settings and you can generate a new backup code. Okay, I'm seeing a question in the chat. Before we move on to Floreka, is everyone required to complete the FAFSA? Even if they're in their 50s, they're pretty certain they won't get any help financially. So this is a great question. If someone thinks they're not going to get any aid, they are not required to fill out the FAFSA. Like that is an optional thing. But I always tell people, I think it's a good idea. Like even if you don't think you're going to get any financial aid, you'd be surprised. Like a lot of times people will get financial aid and they maybe didn't realize they would. At the school I worked at previously, our aid I thought was really generous. So people who didn't think they would qualify actually did get something. So I always recommend people do fill it out. You aren't required to though. Thanks for that question. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Floreka to talk about parents without a social security.
Yes. Nikki, can you hear me?
I can. Yep.
Okay, so don't know what happened. My docking is, but
That's okay.
docking just went off, and I was like, it never happens. So why? So
Always
I'm
at the
trying to,
first time, right?
yeah, and I'm trying. That's why I kind of, and now my thing is looking a little bit weird, but I'm not gonna freak out. I'm just gonna
That's
take a
okay.
deep breath. And now my camera, because I'm using just my computer right now.
Sure.
But hold on, let me. Yeah. So okay.
You don't need to. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead for parents without social security number. So now it's asking me. Yes, okay, so it's coming.
There you
So
go. I can see you.
it's using my like dock, and then I have to look down here. Okay. Got it. Oh, hold on. See, this is what it's doing.
That's how you want me to jump in while you're working on that?
Yes, yes, just give me a second.
Got it. Okay. So in the past, parents who didn't have a social security number, they would have to like sign or they wouldn't be able to create a username and password. But this is new. This has now changed that people without a social security number can now do this. They can set up their StudentAid.gov account. By the way, we used to call this an FSA ID. So if someone asks you about the FSA ID, they're really just talking about the StudentAid.gov account. So parents without a social security number can create a username and passwords. Students, on the other hand, they must have a social security number. If they don't have a social security number, they are not an eligible person to fill out the FAFSA. But also, some people do have a social security number, but it's only for work purposes only. So they may not they may have a social security number, but they may not be able to apply for financial aid using the FAFSA. They still could apply, but they wouldn't be eligible for aid. So what it looks like, are you there, Flo? You want to
So I
jump?
can jump in. I'll just do it without the video thing. I'm not
Go
gonna.
ahead.
Okay. So as Nikki was saying, so with parents without a social security number, originally when they fill out the FAFSA, they will put in just the FAFSA when they create their FSA ID, StudentAid.gov account. That section on the form is usually if they didn't have a social security, parents will just enter 00. But now, since this new change has happened, individuals have the option of indicating that they don't have a social security number. Once they indicate that, that part where they need to enter their social security number will be grayed out. So they'll fill out the FAFSA form, they're creating the FSA ID just as everybody else. Once they do that, they will get another alert to indicate that they don't have a social security number. So there's kind of like 3 times to let them know, are you sure you don't have a social security number? Because they want to make sure that parents don't have a social security number. Students must have a social security number. So they need to have a regular social security number, not one for work purposes. So, and students must be a US citizen or an eligible non-citizen to create a FSA ID account and fill out the FAFSA as well. Next page. So parents without social security number, we know that they will go to StudentAid.gov to create their account. This looks similar to those without social security, except for parents, they would have to identify themselves first. So the identity has to be verified. They would have to check a box to identify. So they'll be asked knowledge-based questions. Sometimes the question could be 1 question or 4 questions. So that just depends on the system. Those questions are very crucial, and you want to make sure that parents get this information correct. So it can come to their home address, their PO box, even like the car that they brought. There's just general based questions to verify who they are. Once the account is created, they will get a confirmation screen and they can go ahead and fill out their FSA IDs, StudentAid.gov account. Once they do that, they can immediately use the account. And then if they're not verified, they will have additional information, one more try to identify who they are so they can complete the form. If they successfully complete the identification verification process, they will go ahead and use their StudentAid.gov account immediately. There will be no additional steps needed. But if they can't complete the identification process, another information will be prompted for them to continue. We'll see that in the next screen. We also have a FSA ID worksheet for parents without social security number as well, so it can walk them through that process. So next screen. So for parents without FAFSA, this is what the screen looks like. So a lot of you guys remember from last year, we had the attestation form, and this form where individuals would have to fill it out who weren't verified, and this will be sent to the Department of Education. So now everything will be done digitally. So for individuals who won't be verified, this is what what the information will look like. They will get to use their FSA ID, but they will have issues when entering their tax information. So usually you can go to the next screen, Nikki. Yep. So usually when they enter that information, they can't enter their taxes manually. They can't enter their taxes electronically. They'll have to enter it manually. So they want that will be an issue for a lot of parents because that can cause some verification issues. So we want to make sure that this is the case for parents without social security number, that a lot of them will just receive that information from the IRS data retrieval. At this case, they won't. Is this going to change? Possibly, but we're still waiting for more information from the Department of Education. And also for individuals, like when you're working with new mainers and families, sometimes seeing handed documents is important. We have these sheets on how to create federal StudentAid.gov account, and it walks step by step for parents without StudentAid.gov account. We also have resources with the new Mainer 1, 2, 3 worksheet. And these are really great to use with families. So if you make an appointment, you want to give them this form. So we'll give them information that they would need to come when you're meeting with them. And that's also going to be downloadable, and it's on our new Mainers website too. And I also want to add, because I mentioned in the beginning, students do need to have a social security number. In the past, we had people calling we know everybody has a social security number for work purposes sometimes, but those are not eligible for creating a StudentAid.gov account. So if you're working with students and you look at their social security number, and if it says, that's the indicator right there. If it says for work purposes only. And another great thing is in our new Mainers website section, which is famain.com/new-mainers, we have skip logic built in. So sometimes you might be working with students and they're like, I'm pretty sure I'm eligible for the FAFSA. I have my social security number. I have all of this. You can work with those students to go through those process. There's going to be 7 questions, and we'll talk more about that later in our new Mainers session at 11. So students will get to identify who they are when it comes to the FAFSA and if they're eligible or not eligible. Even if you want to see the images of what it looks like, what a social security number for work purposes looks like, what a green card looks like, that's all available in our new Mainers page. We have screenshots to kind of give you a visualization of what that looks like. So this is what it looks like when parents without social security number are filling out their FSA ID in the FAFSA form. So when they're originally, this where it says social security number, that will be grayed out. And then parents will indicate, are you sure my parent does not have a social security number? They'll click on that. When the box is clicked, the box will update. They can update their mailing address. This is where we want to make sure that they have that correct email, because this is where they will get the invitation. And also their address. We want to make sure everything matches here. Like Nikki said earlier, if nothing matches here, there's going to be issues with the FAFSA form. Parents will no longer enter 00. So you see where that part is grayed out. This part would just be grayed out. This is where they want to enter all of that information. And if the parent were to get the invite, the student will click send invite on there. And we want to make sure that sometimes, with my experience working with new Mainers, is that students are making email accounts for their parents, which is great, but sometimes they have another sibling and the sibling is a senior, creates the email account and username and password, and then they have a sibling who's about to graduate. Where's the username? Where's the password? What email did I use? I don't know what it is, and things like that. So it's so important to make sure that I don't know if I should say this out loud, but
No,
write this
we have seen
information
that a
down.
lot. Yeah, we have seen this a lot for sure. Floreka, I feel like every time we do a new Mainers FAFSA session, there's an older student that did create the account and didn't write it down. And so
Yeah.
we struggle helping the parents. So spot on.
So writing all of that information down would be great, and then sharing it with the other siblings. Screenshots too. You can do this cool thing now where you can take a picture, save it to your notes. You can even log it on your notes. So when you need to send it, take a screenshot. So that part. Yep, go ahead. So we also said there's still issues for mixed families for parents who don't have Social Security. Like I mentioned earlier, the IRS data retrieval is not working for anybody without a Social Security. Contributors will have to manually enter their tax return information. That's just the case for these individuals for now. If the student enters, like I said earlier, slightly incorrect information, when inviting the contributor, there's going to be issues. So even if they put in that information is not matching the information they entered when they created a StudentAid.gov account, the parent will not get the invitation at all. So we want to make sure that everything looks great when creating that FSA ID account.
Marika, can I jump in for a second? I just
Yes,
want
go
to
ahead.
make sure I feel like if we have someone who's new and we're talking about the invitation,
Mhm.
Within the FAFSA, let's say the student starts the FAFSA, they need to invite their parent to fill out their section. And if that data, like the address, doesn't match, the parent won't get the invitation. Like that's going to be kind of a barrier. So that's why it's so important. So important to get that absolutely correct. All right.
Mhm.
So did you have anything else, Floreka, before I jump in?
No, you did
Okay.
great.
Let's go to troubleshooting. Troubleshooting, I swear this is what I do most of my days, is help people who will call me for a multiple number of reasons saying my FAFSA just is not working. So let's just start with how do we make sure there is no errors? So as we are creating the StudentAid.gov account, I always tell people this application will time you out. Like you have, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes to do this. So I tell people, complete it, take your time, make sure you get the data correct, but let's go at a good clip, right? If I see someone stop and have a chat, I'm like, no, keep going, because you may get to the end of the application to create this account and it says an unknown error has occurred. And this really just means it timed out, right? So the good thing about having that worksheet and everything's all created, like you have everything all figured out, when you go to do it again, you have all your information there and it'll just take a minute to do it. So again, please write your stuff down.
Mhm.
As you are creating the account, sometimes people like me, I tend to put a space after everything. And if I put my name in and then a space, when I get down to go to the next page, it's going to say, you have a weird character. Go figure it out. And that means really nothing to anyone, right? But basically, you cannot put spaces after the data that you put in. So just, I have people go up and make sure that they don't have a space at the end. I also already mentioned about timing it out. Like, let's be careful, let's go slow, but just keep going, right? Sometimes when we see an error message, if you just hit continue again, I saw this yesterday, it moved us right along to the next screen. I'm not sure why the error screen came up, but if you try hitting continue, keep going. Or if for some reason you just can't get past this error, I find it super helpful to move to a different web browser. Like if I was on Chrome, maybe I go to Firefox or Safari or Edge. Like open up a whole new browser, because there may be something behind the scenes that's hanging on to that data. If we switch to a different browser, that will help. Someone mentioned at the live session going to incognito mode within a web browser. That won't hang on to your information. So that's another pro tip. Or if all else is failing, maybe switch devices. Like instead of using your laptop, go to your phone and try to create it, because sometimes that will help as well.
And sometimes starting with a new, fresh browser, because students sometimes could have millions browsers open, so that could be an issue. So making sure that you just have one browser that you're using.
The million browser opens, guilty, can confirm.
Yeah.
I sometimes do have many browsers open, and that's not great. It's not good. I work with a lot of students who get this error message that the cell phone number that you put in is already in use with another account. And this happens a lot with students who maybe use track phones or like temporary or like pay by the month cell phone numbers. Somebody set up an account, and it might have been them or it might have been someone else who had your phone number before. They created an account, and once you put that number in and assign it to that account, it's kind of locked in until that person deletes the cell phone number and puts in another one. That number is going to be out of use. So if this happens, like let's see who has that phone number. If you know who has it, that person, like say maybe it's a parent. Sometimes the parent creates a student account and they put in their cell phone number. The parent will have to go in and into their account, delete the cell phone number so that the student can actually, it frees it up so that they can use it, or vice versa. So when the StudentAid.gov account isn't working, I always go to the settings. So if you're in StudentAid.gov, you can see in the upper right-hand corner where the little person is, where my name is. there is a drop-down arrow where you can go to settings. And the settings is where you're going to see this information. And there's these tabs on the left-hand side. Oh, let me go back. Where if we go to personal information, what I want to look at is this SSA verification status. This means, remember how you create this account and that data goes to Social Security Administration? They send back this code. And if it says match, this is a working account. If someone has an issue, it's not with this account because this is good to go. Like, let's go. We're all good there. If it says pending and it's yellow, that means they just created this account and that match hasn't had time to happen yet. So I always tell people, if I see pending, let's wait a day and we're going to try it again. We're going to log back in and see if we're matched yet. Because we can move ahead while it's pending. This is fraught with disaster. I don't want people to do this. I want you to take your time unless we're up against the deadline. Like some people, we're getting up against Main State Grant deadline. People are trying really hard to get this done fast. We may want to get there and get it done, but we're just going to want to follow up and make sure that everything worked correctly and that FAFSA was okay. So, if it says not matched and it is in red, what is happening is that one of these 3 data pieces does not match the Social Security Administration. So we're going to have to go in and edit maybe the name. Like if I set this up as Nikki, my legal name is Nicole. So I'll want to change my name and hit Save Changes. That file will again go to Social Security Administration to make sure it matches. And then we're going to have to wait until we can use that again. When the invitation isn't working, okay, so within the FAFSA, if I'm a parent and I want to invite my student to fill out their section, we're going to see like this invitation screen, okay? In this, what we're looking at here is that if a student started the FAFSA and they're going to invite their parent, okay? So let's say my student came in and on the left-hand side, it's asking to invite your parent to fill out the FAFSA. The 3 data pieces, name, date of birth, and social security number, have to match what's in the parent's account. And I'm going to give you guys a second to try and figure out what went wrong here. Put it in the chat. So what I have people do is, I have this invitation open on one device, right? So maybe on a computer. I have the parent log into their account on a separate device, maybe their phone or a computer or a different web browser. We log in to their settings and I compare what's in their settings to what's in the invitation because something it doesn't match. And if you guys can see here, eagle eyes, in the invitation it says Nikki. But the matched account says Nicole. So we'll have to switch Nikki to Nicole to get this invitation to work. So 9 times out of 10, when this invitation isn't working, it's because we have mismatched data here. So what do we get when we try to create an account and it says your social security number is already in use? And I think, man, this happened a lot in the past. I feel like we're maybe making some progress in cleaning this up. But what has happened is that someone tried to create an account using your social security number. And this doesn't mean like someone was trying to steal it. I think people just generally just made a typo and they entered your social security number incorrectly. In that case, that person probably just tried again to create their account and use their correct social security number, but your social security number's out there attached to someone else's account. It's like an abandoned account. So basically, one of the things that they changed, which has been working so smoothly, is that whenever someone has any issues getting in, there's this forgot my username, forgot my password, and this is in number 1. But if we say forgot my username, there is a recover my account using a photo ID. And when you say continue, we're going to create an account recovery request where we can get a text message with a link that we can take a picture of our ID, like a license, a passport, something like that. We're going to be emailed a way to reset our password and now our email address is going to be our username, and we've reset the new password. We now have a new login, and this works. So that is amazing. And that is super fast and super slick. I will say we want to make sure when we're taking pictures of like a license or any information, we want to make sure the flash is off, because sometimes there's a glare with the flash and you can't see some of the data. If this is not clear, if your data is not clear, this is not going to work. They're going to ask you to retake the picture. If all else fails, like none of this is working, you can call 800-4FED-AID and talk to someone within Federal Student Aid to help you reset your password, uncover your information. I find that many times during the year, when there's a lot of use, you may end up on hold for a while. So I want to make sure people call early in the morning or like just before their hours are going to close. And when we get to the recorded thing where it says, what do you need help with? Say agent. And that's going to put you in the line to talk to a person. So just to let you know, that's how we would go ahead. All right. So I'm seeing someone in the chat got it right. Thank you. That's it. It was the name that we had right in that scavenger hunt. Nice. Nicely done. I love when people play along. I want to let people know resources that we that you have. You can go to StudentAid.gov Help Center, where we can see the phone number. This 800-433, this is actually 800-4FED-AID if you look at the numbers on the dial. Live chat has been super helpful when we are working with parents who don't speak English and we're using an interpreter. If a parent doesn't speak a language that we have translators for now, we can use the live chat and talk to someone within Federal Student Aid. Federal Student Aid, they're very dedicated to making sure keeping our information safe. So they don't like to use a translator on our end. Like if we have someone translating, they need to talk to the person, right? So if you call and we're using a translator, the person who has the ID has to be able to speak to that person. Live chat has been really helpful to chat with someone and get that account troubleshooted by using live chat, because they wouldn't necessarily know that we are using a translator. You can also use email, and down below you can see what the hours of operation are. So if it's a heavy traffic time of the year, I always try like early in the morning or just before they close to make sure that we have less chances of being put on hold for a long time. I did want to say that they now have a bunch more translators that you can speak to. You can go to StudentAid.gov, and if someone speaks one of these languages that they now have translators for, the person who is trying to get help can talk to these translators themselves and not need to have us to have a translator. So that has definitely been an increase in help. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a second to think of any questions if you had. What I want to show you is just kind of a live demo of what it looks like. Let me just see here at StudentAid.gov. All right, so Floreka, can we see that screen? Is that okay? Yeah. And if anyone has any questions, I want to show you what it looks like when we are creating.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, so this is the StudentAid.gov website. And this is, again, where we do all the things. If we want to fill out a FAFSA, if we want to take out a loan, if we're managing loan repayment, this is where that lives. Or if we're working towards loan forgiveness, these are all the things that we can do with a StudentAid.gov account. All right, so if you already have an account, click in. But if you want to create your account, click here. It takes a second to load. It tells you what you're going to need to fill this out. You're going to need a social security number and email address. We do need more information, but like those are the basics. So when we click get started, this is the most important screen here. So let's put in Nicole Vachon and my date of birth. This isn't my date of birth. So if I put in continue, I put in my social security number, guys. This is telling me this account already exists, that because I do have an account. I did create this. So this is telling me that I need to go back to login. And I can do forgot my username or forgot my password. And I always start with forgot my password. So if I put in my email address, I try to work with what is the email address that you think you used when you set this account up, because keep in mind this might have changed. But if I put in my date of birth, I can be emailed a secure code, I can be texted, I can answer my challenge questions. If we do this, I have to wait 30 minutes to be able to use this. So I always say, let's try to use either the text or an email, or we can recover my account with a photo ID. So just keep in mind that that's how we can reset this. I also want you guys to know that if you see a cell phone number and an email address here, that means these are the things that we use to set up that account. These are also now my username. My cell phone number is my username and my email address as well. So when I go to log in, I can log in using my email, my phone number, or the username I created as my username. So as you can see here, I log in using my email address. Any questions in the chat? Anything to add there, Floreka? I'm going to go back to our presentation. And just want to let folks know that we do have help that you can go to FAME.com/contact, and we have a scheduling system there where we can help Mainers wherever they are set up an appointment, go one-on-one with us, and we can help you if you have issues with your account, if you have issues with the FAFSA, we can help you untangle that. It's a free service to Mainers, so feel free to give our information out. But I also want to make sure that people are following us on our socials and also have our contact information. So general questions, go to education@famemain.com, and our phone number is down below. Anything to add, Floreka, before we end?
Yes. I was gonna mention we also have short videos available. I was trying to find the link. We have short videos on how to create a StudentAid.gov account. What the heck
What the heck is wrong with my
wrong with my
FSA ID?
FAFSA? So like FAFSA troubleshooting videos, we have, and they're like 5-minute videos, and they're so helpful. So sometimes I think if you're preparing to work with a student, like how to create an FSA ID or what you need, send them that video, and then they'll prepare them once you meet with them to create an account. So those informational videos are great.
Absolutely. So that's on our YouTube channel. It's at YouTube. It's our handle is FameMain. So feel free to check those out, use them, share them. They're pretty cute. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Let us know how we can help.
Thank you.